And the Oxford Brookes A crew here, they got a bye through to this. So this is their first race of Henley 2025, whereas the Thames and Molesey crew raced and they beat Thames and Henley easily yesterday. But they've had that run down the tracks, maybe a bit less nerves. But away they go cleanly after debris is cleared in the bridge. The first time this event has been run at Henley for intermediate women's eights. Oxford Brookes and Thames and Molesey.
Yeah, explosive starts from both boats to be expected in this Bridge Challenge plate. There aren't many trophies, Matt, that Oxford Brookes haven't won at Henley Royal Regatta, so I think they will certainly be keen to add this one to their collection, and probably the slightly more favoured crew coming into this.
Yeah, because there'll be a scratch crew, just like in the last event, if you were with us then, which was the men's equivalent of this. You've got a sort of fairly scratch crew of under-23s coming together from around the world where they've been studying. And, well, Brookes look like they've got a bit more cohesion to me here, reflecting perhaps that drilled experience that they have. This shot is lovely, isn't it, seeing the two crews. This is the view from the umpire. In fact, we don't have a helmet cam on Matthew Pinsent. We've got a massive, sophisticated camera here that's picking up what's going on. I can see the contrast in the styles a bit.
Yeah, there does look like there's more cohesion. It's a more fluent rowing stroke there from Brookes. Obviously, those girls have been part of this programme for several years. A few of them have actually won at Henley Royal Regatta before, so they'll know what it takes. And more importantly, they'll know what it's like rowing together on this piece of water. And at the moment, it does seem to me that Brookes, with every stroke, are pulling away.
When I see this happen, I always make a hand gesture of pushing down like a handle to accelerate, and it feels like exactly what the Brookes crew did here. They just sort of dropped it down and said, we're going to ease out here. We can smell the opportunity as they come through the barrier into the second quarter of this race. Brookes have made a bit of a move, setting a marker down for the composite under-23s from Thames, Molesey and more on the right of our picture.
Yeah, the role of Beatrice Argyle in the coxing seat there, left of your screen. She is the onboard tactician. It's her job to think about exactly what the right things are to do at the right moment. She needs to translate that to her crew who are in the engine room. And right now, from a strategic point of view, you're absolutely right, Matt. I think the time is right for Brookes to just move away now, try to eke out into a clear water lead, and then they can just dictate the terms of this contest.
So I think an early move, as you say, Tom, from the Brookes crew there, and they'll want to rattle, and they'll know, you know, the other crew is a scratch crew, and that probably they're more vulnerable at the start, which is a harder thing if you're not, you know, so used to rowing together to combine. The question for the crew on the left of our picture is, have they got the mid-race pace? If they can relax and not get too rattled from being dropped a bit off the start. Matthew Pinsent keeps an eye on the Brookes crew. I thought they were drifting across a bit there. And they were. Yeah,
maybe a little bit of a strategy coming in there from Argyle in that coxing seat, just making sure that Thames and Molesey know that they're there. There's nothing worse than rowing in your opponent's puddles. And to your point, Matt, that mid-race pace, that baseline level that Thames and Molesey know that they'll have, either end of the race is going to be where they're vulnerable, and Brookes have taken full advantage of that.
So now we get a perspective as we fly over Brookes. They have broken the connection with Molesey, which means Molesey and Leander. So that means that, sorry, Molesey and Thames. That means that the women in the under-23 British boat there, well, they don't have a sense out of the corner of the eye of where the Brookes crew is, and this is a lovely position for Brookes to be in.
Yeah, particularly on the Friday afternoon when the sun is shining, their first run down the track in the inaugural Bridge Challenge plate. So to have the luxury of just establishing a lead here in this quarter-final, and now they can just think carefully about what they want to exert physically and mentally as this race unfolds.
That white box there is Fawley. They are now halfway down the track, and at halfway, if you'd ask the Oxford Brookes women, where would you like to be? This is pretty much where they'd want it, isn't it?
Yeah, spot on. Then it's moving away now. I think the word I'd use, Matt, is attritional. It hasn't been explosive necessarily. They've just moved with every inch, every stroke, every fraction that they can sort of delineate from this race they've taken, and now they're just extending their lead, and it makes it all the more difficult for Thames and Molesey because they can't see, they can't hear, they can't feel their opponents. And Tess Peake in the stroke seat, she's a vastly experienced athlete. She'll have plenty of nous and racing courage, but I think this is going to be a step too far.
You know, I think you're right. You've got some class athletes in the Thames and Molesey boat there. As we look down from above, we can see just why this is such a great stadium for rowing. This bit in the middle can sometimes feel a bit deader. There's fewer people on the bank. The bank's further away. As you get to the enclosures, it feels more like rape seating of a stadium. There's often a lot more noise here. But Oxford Brookes straying again. I think you said maybe you thought it was a bit of gamesmanship from the Brookes cross Beatrice Argyle. The flag hasn't stayed lead in the bag. Vincent's had a couple of attempts to keep them across on their station, and the gamesmanship, well, to explain how that plays out, Tom.
Yeah, well, Brookes will know where the river is at its fastest, depending on where they are on the course, and they'll just be making sure that they are staying on and off their station, depending on where they are as they progress down the course. The other thing to consider is in this match racing format, if they move into the middle a little bit, those puddles tend to disrupt the Thames and Molesey crew, and that can make their rowing even more unstable.
You're absolutely right. You get this sense as you look, viewers, across the course here. They're rowing against the stream. Although there's not much stream, there is some advantage to trying to keep out of it if you can do, while manoeuvring between the booms and the sort of halfway mark across. And that's where some of the more experienced coxes like this will be trying to gain any incremental advantage they can. They might not need it today, the Brookes women, but they might need it on Saturday or Sunday if they're lucky enough to progress through here. But now, well, it's the job of Charlie Watkins, the young cox of the Thames and Molesey crew, to keep his women motivated and focused. We know that anything can happen, but in conditions like this, it's relatively unlikely that the Brookes crew will have a mishap with this level of experience on board.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're going to be composed enough to know what it takes to complete the job here, and it is about completing the job at this stage of the competition. You don't need to do anything dramatic. There doesn't need to be anything histrionic at either end of the race. It's just about getting through professional performance, and Brookes can now lap up the adulation of the crowd. And Matt, to your point around the stadia that we sort of have here on the left-hand side of the shot, the stewards enclosures brimming with people. It was in there just before I came to the commentary box, and the atmosphere is palpable. It's really, really at sort of a teeter hook now.
Well, JRN, Tom, you and the team really love to do your research. It's great to know you've been researching all along the enclosures, every ice cream stall, every Pimm's, every iced coffee, mostly iced coffee being sold out there today. And, well, ice cool heads are needed when you're in this position, as the Thames and Molesey Boat Club are. Beautiful images, a beautiful afternoon. The wind's a little bit blustery, but it's not troubling either of these crews. A final click through the gears for the Thames and Molesey Boat Club. They need to make sure they're doing everything they possibly can to hold their heads high after this, but the Brookes A boat, well, they have multiple world champions, previous Henley winners on board, 3 returning members from the Remenham Challenge Club winning crew from 2024, so it's a really, really class crew. And Thames and Molesey, well, we won't see them again in this competition. Lola Crampin, Neve Comerford, Flynn Green, Lily Abbott, Harriet Noyes, Lisa O'Donoghue, Rhiannon Luke, Tess Peake and Charlie Watkins. Credit to them, but what a row from that Brookes crew. Keep your eyes on them.